Hello guys, welcome back. Now today I want to talk about the New York Islanders and mostly about how they've struggled recently and how they've kind of slipped out of a playoff spot here. Now the Islanders are 29 and 8, 7th in the Metro Division, behind the New York Rangers, who've actually won 3 straight surprisingly. But the New York Islanders have lost 6 straight, surpassing the New York Rangers for the basically tank mode there. The Rangers winning 3 straight, the Islanders losing 6. It's basically common knowledge that the Islanders would have dropped to last in the Metro Division because it's so competitive there. Now, it is common knowledge that the Islanders are fantastic on offense. Now, I'd say they're top 5 offense in the entire league, which is fantastic, so obviously. But Garth Snow, the GM, has made a lot of moves to boost that offense, and he's done a really good job of boosting that offense. But of course, in doing so, he's really neglected the defense part of the side of the team, and of course, the goaltending. Now, of course, in these videos, I like to compare the team to the league average, so let's do that. So now starting with the goals for the Islanders, they've scored 210 goals for the season, league average at 193. So of course they're scoring a lot more goals than league average. That's pretty understandable for what the team has. They have been great offensively for basically the whole season now. Then we look at the goals against, and it's a very different story. The New York Islanders are allowing 235 goals against this season, while league average is, of course, the same at 193. Their defense has been exponentially terrible. Their special teams, the penalty kill has been really bad. The defense has been atrocious, but of course, a lot of it is on the goalies as well. They make terrible plays. Halak is not good at all. He's the better of the two. Greiss is in a terrible season, but Halak likes to let him weak goals. There's lots of problems there with the goaltending, defense especially, but man, the goaltending has definitely dropped the ball this season. Greiss was supposed to be the starter of, I guess, the future, kind of, for the next couple of years, but really, he's just dropped the ball exponentially. Now, on the power play, they're understandably better than league average at 20.69%, while league average is 19.83%. That power play is definitely understandably better than the league average. Of course, having those weapons like Tavares, Bailey, just everybody on that line is just understandably going to be a good power play there. On the penalty kill, they got a 74.47 penalty kill percentage. That's just abysmal. It's not Oilers numbers, but it's definitely down there. It's a terrible number. The league average is 80.17%. So that league average is definitely up there for the penalty kill. Their penalty kill hasn't been great at all. Of course, not having good goaltending and not having the defense to make up for it is definitely going to be a problem there. Now, their shot percentage is higher than league average at 10.2%, understandably. That's a great percentage. Having the firepower on there is definitely going to be good for that shot percentage. And the league average is 9.1%. So they're a whole percentage over the shot percentage league average, which is great for them. But then we dip down to the save percentage, and really it's not great at all. At the average, it's 9.04%, while the league average is 9.13. So obviously that's not good at all. Goaltending definitely has to step it up. It hasn't been absolutely abysmal, but it's definitely far from good. Especially when Halak is your starting goaltender, there's going to be some problems there. He's not a terrible goaltender, but he's a not good one at all. Greiss hasn't been good at all this season, and really they're just kind of flip-flopping, seeing who's better than the other one day. And even Greiss has not performed at all to his contract. It's not a bad contract, but of course, performing like that is not good at all. And Halak, he's over 3 goals against average, and that's not good at all. And he's your starting goaltender. You want those stats to be better, but of course they aren't. And they also allow some of the most shots in the entire league, which is, of course, contributing to the defense and the goaltending stats. I'd say Halak is the better goaltender of the two by far, but it's really not too much of competition who is good, because there's really no good goaltender on that squad. The defense is young, but really they have some serious problems on that defense. Of course, acquiring Brandon Davison at the trade deadline isn't really enough at all for the defense to be a lot better. Guys like Boychuk, even though he's like 34, who we expected to regress, have regressed very thoroughly. He's supposed to be a top 4 guy, but he's really not this season. I guess he's like a kind of top 6 guy for the stats he's putting up, but they're relying on him to be top 2 minutes. It's just not good at all. Letty is like a minus 34. Now, I'm not going to go too far into minus, but when you're that far below in minus, even though I don't really like the minus stat, if you're that far below, there's some problems there, definitely. And of course, Garth Snow, a former goalie of the New York Islanders, the GM of the New York Islanders right now, he isn't even that good at analyzing just goalie talents. And really, these two guys are really the worst goaltenders that you could really think of getting right now. Greiss, of course, is one of the worst in the NHL, at least stats-wise this season. He's really not that good at just scouting goalie talent and all that. Of course, defense, you think that he would want to get some more of that, being a former goalie, and all, but really he hasn't done much to do that. It is a young defense, but a lot of these pieces I thought were pretty decent. Pulock, Leddy, you got Pelech, you got a lot of guys there that could be pretty decent, but a lot of them have just performed terribly. You can definitely expect off nights from a young defense, but there's teams with young defenses in the AHL, like the New Jersey Devils, but they're doing good, and the young defense has really stepped up, and that's really not what's happening for the New York Islanders. That young defense is kind of crumbling in the lack of experience and the lack of actual talent. But the young, they have a decent talent-wise defense there, but they're just not contributing in the NHL, and they're not playing all that great. Of course, they got them terrible contracts on the team, especially the Andrew Ladd contract, the Kel Clutterbuck contract. They have some bad contracts on the team. The Andrew Ladd contract is going to haunt them forever. I think it's around 20 points, which is just abysmal for being paid like $5.5 million. They just got some terrible deals. That Ladd one never made sense to me, and those contracts are just kind of keeping them down a little bit. Maybe with those $5.5 million, he could have gotten a defenseman in the offseason that would really help them, but alas, they wouldn't have. And in the offseason as well, trading off Hamonic, I think, has really hurt them. Kind of that backbone of a top 4 defenseman right there. Even though he hasn't played all that well for Calgary, he still is a great defenseman, and New York Islanders definitely could have used him this season. And another big thing is if Tavares will actually sign in the offseason. They haven't gotten an extension yet, so of course Tavares is the gigantic question there. And I think a lot of it is distracting upon the whole team. It's still a big concern for the whole franchise, probably the biggest concern that they've had for a long, long time. Keeping Tavares if he's going to stay. And for where they're going at, if they miss the playoffs, I'd say that Tavares has a lot better of a chance of leaving. If they make the playoffs, I think there's a lot better chance of him staying. But there is some promise there for Tavares to come. But there's literally some gaping holes in that team. Of course, where is the goaltending going to go? What's going to happen with the defense? How are they going to take that next step? You never know there. And Tavares is just a giant question mark for him and the team in general. He doesn't know if he should stay in the team. Really wants him to stay. He has the pieces around him. The forward depth is fantastic, but of course he has some giant holes there. And of course, it's really distracting from the whole team this season, and it's definitely showing. They were in a playoff spot for a couple of months there, but they were really kind of a fringe team right now, and they're really playing like it. They're not a great team, and they're not a bad team either, but they got some gaping holes that they didn't fix at the trade deadline. I think that's a giant thing for them. Of course, it's going to be a giant gaping hole in the offseason. Is Garth Snow going to be fired from his GM position? Are they going to get a new guy there? And honestly, if you go on my opinion, I'd say you do fire him, but he isn't a terrible GM. I don't say that he's necessarily out of work in the NHL. He might get some executive position, something like that, but I think he's a decent GM. He's made some good trades. The Everly trade is definitely a steal for that franchise. He's made some good trades, and he made some good picks for the prospects. I think that the development team is decent at developing forwards, not really necessarily on the defensive side, but really the scouting has been good for them. Of course, drafting Barzal and guys like developing Lee and Leddy and all that stuff has really helped them. But I think overall, Snow should be fired, but he hasn't made terrible moves. He just kind of has neglected positions that he really shouldn't. And the big question is, will they get on another hot streak? Will they get in the playoff position? Now, they don't have too many games left. I think there's around 15, something like that. But to get in the playoffs is going to be a serious, serious challenge for them. Of course, they can't be losing 3 straight games anymore. They have to be winning, and winning. Games against Florida and Columbus are going to be huge. But they have teams ahead of them that are a lot hotter. Of course, Florida is super hot, getting that second wildcard spot. You got teams like Columbus who probably deserve it a lot more than them. And then there's teams that probably do deserve it a lot more than them and have really worked harder than them. And the Islanders find themselves in a really deep hole they might not even dig themselves out of. And I don't think that they necessarily will. It's going to suck because they probably won't make the playoffs, and of course that's going to be even a bigger question than it would if they made the playoffs. If Tavares will come back, because you never know if they miss the playoffs if Tavares wants to stay. And a big thing that I kind of warned about at the trade deadline that I don't want to say I don't think I said it in a video, but the big thing that for me that is just signified that we won't make the playoffs, the Islanders won't make the playoffs, is that at the trade deadline, you got Matt and you got Brendan Davidson. He's an okay defenseman. He's a decent bottom pairing guy. But to only acquire him on a defense that's just been terrible throughout the whole season is really just signifying that they're not going to make the playoffs. And they're really not on track to do that. They really needed a guy that would be a solidifier, not really a top 2 guy, but a top 4 guy that would really help them. You know, Travis Hamonic, if you didn't trade him. But at least that pick's looking good for the New York Islanders and the Calgary. If they miss the playoffs, possibly, that would be good for them. But still, I think that Hamonic is a guy that would really help them, even if they did get fair value and probably even better fair value for what they got. But really, they had the assets at the trade deadline to make a move for the defenseman, but they didn't. And that's a big thing for me, and that's why I don't think they'll make the playoffs, and I don't think they'll be really close to it. But let's go on, guys. Let's grab Did Not Ring That Bell. If you haven't, tell me down below what you thought on the Islanders, and if you watched them, what is your thoughts on them overall, and we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.